Okay, we are live.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And call the Conservation Advisory Board to order. The emergency exits are on either end of the building. If you go to the right-hand side is the handicap exit. Right in the middle, you walk out the door on the wall is the AED. If we should need it, Cheryl, could you call the roll, please?
Clark Mahaney.
Here.
Janine Clark. Here. Carrie Whipple.
Here.
Steve Rutherford.
Here.
Louis DeVincenti. Here.
Okay. Move right into the approval of the minutes. Everybody have a copy of the minutes and have read them. Is there any amendments we need to make to the minutes? Hearing none, can I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the December 13th meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, we approve the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Cheryl, could you?
Clark Mahaney.
Yes.
Janine Clark. Yes. Steve Rutherford.
Yes.
Carrie Whipple.
Steve.
Louis.
Yes.
DeVincenti.
All right. And it's been approved by everybody. Move right into reports, Janine.
Planning Board. Wednesday, January 4th. There were no public hearings. The first thing on the agenda was a Conservation Corridor Development Permit for 7008 Benedict Beach Road. The applicant was Scott Hepler. The owner was Jeff Rash. He wants to plan to build or construct a temporary 32-foot by 16-foot access pad consisting of 2 to 3 ton boulders to facilitate the construction of a dock and a platform. And then also is permitted is the construction of a 42-inch wide by 18-foot long stairway from the platform to the lake. The access pad will be removed upon completion of construction, and the boulders will be used above mean high water to repair the existing rock revetment. He is putting in also an L-shaped dock. It's consistent with the LWRP. There's no engineering concerns. It's a type 2 seeker. So that was a motion was made and approved to approve it to designate it a type 2 seeker, and the motion was made and approved to accept the Conservation Corridor Development. And then Scott Hepler stayed right at the stand because his second Conservation Corridor Development permit was for homeowner Stephen Rice at 7904 Newport Drive. And again, he was constructing the temporary access pad consisting of 2 to 3 ton boulders to facilitate the construction of a dock and a platform. This dock will be 8 feet wide and 90 feet long. He did explain that it's really going out into the water about 60 feet because about 20 feet would be to get across the boulders that are the rock revetment. Because it's within 100 feet of Lake Ontario, Dignity LWRP. This particular one is in the CHA, the Coastal Erosion Hazard Area, and the floodplain. So the owner had to get other permissions from, like the CHA comes from the zoning board. This also is a type 2 seeker, and the board made a motion and seconded to and approved the seeker as a type 2 and also approved the Conservation Corridor Development. The next thing on the agenda was Michael Boss, 47 King Street, owner Pete Kruger, seeking a commercial site plan modification to operate a trucking business known as Boss Diesel Service at 47 King Street. And this will include a diesel fuel tank to be permitted in the alleyway in between 2 buildings on that street. It's basically been using the space as a storage facility for his diesel service business. There were concerns about this storage tank filled with diesel fuel because the property appears to be in the conservation corridor development area in its proximity to West Creek. It's kind of a tributary to West Creek that runs behind the building. So there were a lot of things that were not ready for approval, things that needed to be submitted that were not ready for approval. They asked for a short EAF form, which stands for Environmental Assessment Form. And also the attorney wanted to see that a site plan was presented. So the application, the applicant will have to come back when all the required documents are submitted. And the next item on the agenda, again, a commercial site plan, excuse me, modification for Jeremy Bauer, owner Pete Kruger for 53 King Street. So it's the same area, same street. And this young man owns is operating a small engine repair and motorcycle business. This and the previous application are in the CGB, the Commercial General Business Zoning District. This person it's just a small engine ATV repair shop. There's no cars or trucks to repair at the location, but many of the same issues also pertain to this application as the previous one. So the applicant will be required to fill out a short EAF form. Probably not a conservation corridor development permit because he doesn't have anything outside the building as the diesel service did. So again, this will be placed on the agenda when all the documents are submitted. The last thing on the agenda was for a generator, 6596 Shore Acres Road, and the applicant did not show, so it will be again on the agenda in February. The only other thing at the meeting, the chairperson asked members if they could make time to represent the planning board at other support board and town board meetings. And that was the meeting.
All right, I have concerns on the diesel business there because it's right next to a dance school and the karate class.
Yeah,
and
we all had the same concerns. There was a diesel spill also.
Yeah.
Where I had to call the DEC and have them over, and they were filling their trucks up there.
Right.
And from what I understand, I haven't been there yet. I didn't go there today on the way to work, but the diesel fuel tank has been moved, from what I understand.
Okay.
Across the street behind the blue aluminum building that people were still owns.
Yeah, I would think it's more of a fire hazard.
Also, they squeezed it in. It was probably like 3 or 4 feet. It was tucked in against this wall.
Yeah.
But there was only 3 or 4 feet on that wall, and it was supposed to have 25 to 50 feet on either side.
Oh, exactly. That's was my concern that it's so close to the school and.
Yeah, she did complain too. She came to the.
What's that?
She came to my office and put a complaint
Okay.
about the smell.
Yeah. The smell would be.
Is that just west of the school and the karate?
It is.
Is that where you're
Yes.
just west?
Yeah.
There's a little alleyway.
Right next to it. It's only 3 or 4 feet wide in there.
And again, the creek is right there, so there's just a whole lot of reasons why that shouldn't be there. And I think the planning board made that clear at the meeting.
I know.
There was discussion about putting it, or maybe even a different container of some sort across the road, across the street.
I don't know why you would need a diesel tank there to begin with.
Well, he stores, he has a fleet of, let's see if I can find. I don't know if it was in the minutes or not. Well, he has 9 vehicles in his fleet. Even though he says there's no regular maintenance done on the site, he said he would be parking some of the vehicles there. So he could fill them up there. That's my understanding.
They can fill them up across the road.
That's the plan.
Alrighty. For the Fish Advisory Board, we got a ripper on time for that. Yours truly was elected chair again. low in numbers. We have just enough members to form a quorum. And, the members we have, Steve Olson from the county is the youngest person there, and I am the next youngest person there. And everybody else is in their 70s and 80s. And so we're putting out a word to all the towns and stuff that, hey, we need people.
What's the age?
Pardon?
Like what's the minimum age?
Minimum age is probably 18.
Yeah.
So our county executives don't even show up for it.
Are there any other members who are like lakeside communities like your Hamlin? Is there anybody from Parma or Greece or?
Nope.
I was just thinking around it quite, I work with a lot of students that love fishing.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are like that 17, 16, so they're, too young. But maybe their parents.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll set the bug for their parents.
Yeah.
Get them involved.
The place where we meet, everything is in person now. With a Zoom link for the Sea Grant people and DEC. But if anybody wants to be secretary, we have dire need for a secretary. The person that's doing it now says you got 6 months.
It would be a good part-time gig for someone if they retire. If they retired, right? It would be
Yeah.
and still be involved in the community.
Well, he's been on the board forever,
Okay, so that'd be-
and so he says enough's enough. Unfortunately, he is a biologist and can talk biology stuff in a way that we can understand it. But his wife has a meeting at the same time that we have a meeting, and usually he sits out in his car and talks on the phone. He says it's winter, it's cold. So there is that. We are petitioning the legislative powers that be for more money. Our budget's been at $4,000 for ever since I've been on the board, which is pretty close to 10 years now. But in the transition from brochures and stuff to social media, right now it's costing us more money to expand our websites, and it's costing us more money to go on Google and to track the number of hits that we get as to where they're coming from, how long they stay on the site, and things like that. So right now we're going through Blue Eye Design for this, but we're also hiring a consultant that is very good at this. and he's improved the website dramatically, but we're still not on Google's platform yet, so it's going to cost another $4,000 to do that. We also need more members because we don't have enough people that are healthy enough to go to the sportsman shows and hand out brochures and talk to the people about the Monroe County fishing and tourism. And we are working with Monroe County Tourism Board to absorb some of the cost of going to these meetings, since the state tourism board has basically been dissolved as well, and they don't have people to run around to the different shows. I'm still pushing for more fish for Sandy Creek. And the biggest thing is whether or not they're going to continue with the Atlantic salmon stocking for this next year. And I still don't have a answer on that yet. However, the lake trout reef is getting a lot of attention, not only on state level, but it's also on the federal level. Charts, so to speak, and there's a lot of interest in looking for natural spawning of lake trout in Lake Ontario ever since they found the wild reproduction of lake trout at a couple different places in Lake Erie. So they're using that model of what they've seen and found to see what we can do to further natural reproductions here in Lake Ontario. Okay, the EMC meeting was held at the Echo Park. And if you go to the Echo Park, building number 1, and walk in the door, you can get one of these beautiful little bags. And then you'll get a magnet for your refrigerator as to what you can throw away, what has to be cleaned, and all sorts of nifty, neat little stuff, brochures.
There's some out there.
Huh?
They're just out in the hallway there.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. The meeting itself was pretty interesting. Run some of these through some of these figures of what they have collected. One of the problems right now is, since the economy is moving a little bit, one of the biggest things is cardboard, and right now it's being baled and is sitting in a warehouse. But last year they took in 3,250 tons of electrical items, Um, 1,200 tons of scrap metal, 38 tons of pharmaceuticals, 677 tons of cardboard, and 300 tons of shredding. Um, 21,000 gallons of cooking oil, and here's one, 2,240 pounds of COVID test kits that were in, some of it in the sewers and some of it coming through, through just people just throwing them away.
Used test kits or unused or didn't they say?
Used test kits.
Is there like a mask?
Hmm?
Wait, how was masks included?
No, they didn't include the mask. They had 22,425 pounds of rechargeable batteries, 1,300 pounds of U.S. flags that were retired, one of the biggest problems that they're trying to figure out how to recycle is the vape pens that people use for smoking, because there's 3 different components in each vape pen, and each one requires a separate recycling method. They got a battery in it, they've got electronics in it, and they've also got whatever waste is in the vape contents. And surprisingly, one of the biggest hazards was there was a lot of THC fluids left in these vape pens. They're trying to figure out how to recycle these pens, other than throwing them in the garbage and in the landfill. There was a proposal whereby they would have a drop-off spot at stores and such as they do for sharps. Put them in there. So, yeah, it was quite an interesting meeting, to say the least. If you don't know it, I'll tell you already. There's a surcharge on every gallon of paint that you buy. I think it's 95 cents a gallon to take in and recycle old paint.
Sort of like a deposit on a bottle.
Yeah, it's like a deposit on a bottle. This here leads up to we must have either a lot of diabetics in our area, because there was 4,631 pounds of sharps that were thrown away. And, right now they couldn't tell whether the sharps are, from drug users or from insulin users or whatever else you would need a sharp from. But there's a lot of them that aren't coming through the sharp drop off points, and they're finding them in the garbage. When the garbage goes in, bags are opened up and they have a optical scanner there to weed out the tin and the metal and the various different types of paper. And it will identify most everything that comes up along the line. So, well, there was also 7,800 pounds of medications that were disposed of through the recycling center. But, so that was our EMC meeting. Fun was had by all. Okay, Clark.
Okay, the regular Hamlin Town Board meeting, January 9th, 2023. Approved the regular town board meeting minutes of December 28th, 2022. Approved payment of bills from the respective funds. And they approved quite a few budget transfers. I'm not going to go through them all here. They are on the website. They also gave the new rate schedules for the Clarkson Union Cemetery. That also is on the website. And building permit schedules. That's a lot to go through. There will be a public hearing on February 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Town Hall to discuss changes to the propane storage tank law and the barbed wire enclosure law and the noise ordinance law. The library meets Wednesdays. Dave Maynard has been filling in for the Parma dog control officer. And the shelter needs more food for their food shelf. The history committee meets next month and they want ideas for projects. The Chamber of Commerce is meeting next week from that date, and they have a new membership committee set. They're looking at members thinking ways for new businesses to get involved in the Chamber of Commerce. There were 134 seniors at the Christmas gathering. They're meeting with the Hilton Parma Fire District, Hamlin Ambulance to start discussing the boundaries of Hamlin for Hamlin residents on the east side. And there's a cultural committee meeting later this month. Hilton Morton Walker Fire District had their meeting on the 19th of December, and Greg Spear and David Gebhardt were elected commissioners. Adam Barker was elected chief, BJ Meyer deputy chief, and Daryl Prince assistant chief. They've had 500 calls to date. 5 new firefighters are signed up. The town clerk is working on the taxes. Everything we'd like to hear. They're going well. And one of the residents asked if there will ever be, have the newsletter mailed out. There is a possibility that they will, it just might be a handful of people that want something to be considered. Having problems with cell towers, looking on dog control contracts with other towns. And out of 6 applicants for the assessment board of review, only 3 had real estate backgrounds. So town supervisor's gonna make calls next week and talk with Liz about it and email the town board with dates for interviews. Apparently there's a pipe thing sticking up through the roof on the dog shelter that's leaning, and there was some concern about it, but it's an old pipe, it's not attached to anything. So that they, when they do the roof, when the roof is fixed, they'll take care of it that time.
Okay.
And the Christmas lighting was good, and that's the end of that.
Alrighty. Louis.
Yeah, zoning board of appeals from January 17th. It was pretty short. There was a public hearing for Thomas Mann at 179 Church Road. This has been going on for a couple of meetings now. He wants to split his property, so the new lot would be less than 2 acres, and then it would be too narrow. It would only be 130 feet wide, where the minimum lot width is 250 feet, and the lot would be about 1 acre, where the minimum is 2 acres. No one spoke, so the board approved it. And there was a second part of that they would have they would have a building for farm animals within 50 feet of the adjoining residence, and that was also approved. Then there were 2 SIHA permit applications. One was 6596 Shore Acres Drive to install a generator. That was approved. And then they also looked at the 7008 Benedict Beach Road that Janine already talked about, so they approved that as well.
Alrighty. So it's not spring yet, so there's no friends meeting.
Well, yes and no. We got an email, members of the Friends, and that they were gonna have an impromptu meeting if anybody could come, and there was a big turnout, and they met right here in the town boardroom. Just to brainstorm about possible projects for 2023, and we had peace and a lot of camaraderie, and came up with some things that we wanted some suggestions that the chairman will present to the new park manager, Ross Lovell. And there was an annual first day hike at the park, as there has been for the past several years, but this year was particularly a huge success. It was estimated that as many as 150 people or more attended this
Wow.
first day hike. So there was a little activity.
Cool. Alright, great. Let's see, zoning workshop. Nothing from that. Alright, can I have a motion to adjourn? Pardon?
You know, we do adjourn.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to adjourn this part of the meeting.
Second.
Been adjourned, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. We'll move right into the Hamlin Waterfront Committee with the same members present. We have any referrals?
The 6596 Shore Acres was generator, it was consistent. And 7016 Benedict Beach Road, I believe was also, it doesn't say, but it's also a generator, and that was consistent. And I also looked at 7748 Newco for the installation of some solar panels, and it's on the roof, so there are really no issues at all, so that was consistent.
Beautiful. We have any discussion on anything?
Do you wanna discuss
Sure,
the dredging project?
go for it.
We had some paperwork that Cheryl sent us. The yacht club, Brockport Yacht Club, wants to dredge the entrance from the lake into Sandy Creek because it's filled in to the point where some people are having trouble getting their boats in and out. So Louis and I did a preliminary inspection. There's still a long ways to go on this, but because one of the places that the yacht club had to notify was the Department of State. Our LWRP is under the Department of State, so
Right.
they sent us a letter saying, is it consistent with your LWRP? Let us know. So Louis and I went out to look at it, and it's been dredged before, and so there's really no issues. It touches on quite a few policies in our LWRP, and it's consistent with pretty much all of the policies. This was dredged back, 2017 was the last time it was dredged.
Yes.
And so I looked back at that, and they listed some policies that I didn't feel were relevant, but there's one about policy 44 deals with freshwater wetlands, and I don't think this is going to have any effect on the freshwater wetlands. Plan, as the yacht club described it, is that the dredged sand will be deposited in an area adjacent to the east pier at the south end of the outlet of Sandy Creek.
Yes.
And they said the dredged materials will be deposited where the littoral wave action will move the sand to the shore for beach nourishment. So I don't feel like I have the expertise or knowledge to know how much they're gonna dredge, how much they're gonna put there, what effect that is, what does that mean, beach nourishment, or is that what they call it? So Louis and I said it was consistent, definitely the dredging is consistent, but other agencies will probably have more to say about where they're actually gonna put this dredged material.
Yeah, how far out they're gonna put it.
Right,
Yeah, they're not putting it out.
Yeah, their plan is to.
and they're not putting it out very
They're
far.
gonna put it over near the spit area, and it's already been approved by the DEC.
I was gonna say, they've applied to the DEC, the Army Corps, the Office of General Services, and I mentioned again, the Department of State. So, I mean, I can't even visualize how much dredging material that would be as beach nourishment and whether that's considered erosion protection, which would be under policy 13, as to what effect that'll have on adjacent properties. I don't know. So it's good that other agencies are looking at this and whether they will let them deposit where they want to put it.
Yeah, I think everybody came back with no comment. I just got it like last week. And that Brockport Yacht Club is very excited. Because there were quite a few sailboats that.
They couldn't get out.
Could not. In or out, yeah, could not.
And the dredged material is clean. I mean, it's just sand and gravel. It's not anything hazardous.
It's all the silt off first quarter-inch layer off of every field and stuff. So it's good. You know, if they want to put it out in my garden, I'd let them. It's good. It's good material.
So the yacht club is planning to do this on their own. They've got to.
Yeah.
They want to purchase a mini hydraulic dredge and float it and says the dredging equipment is mounted on its own float with gasoline powered sediment pump to suck the sand away. And yacht club members will control the dredging head location and pump the sand through floating hoses to the sand deposit site on the east side of the East Pier. So, I mean, it's definitely something they have to do, which is.
Yeah. With even with my boat this last year, I couldn't. you got into August, I couldn't get up and down the creek with it being so low. I mean, we had less than 3 feet of water in the creek.
So you're
And-
thinking that most of that that's filled in is coming from upstream as opposed to being washed in from the lake?
Well, we get a lot coming down the creek, washing off farmers' fields because they don't have that 100-foot protective barrier.
Exactly.
And we've talked to DEC at length, to go through there and, shake up some of these farmers and say, hey, you can't put your crops right up to the edge of the road. Because you can go down this road up here and the 2 cornfields just past my house, just up there, they're right on the edge of the road, and every time we get a wash, it goes right into the little gully and washes straight down into the creek.
And farmers are exempt from having to get conservation corridor development permits.
Yeah, and so, it's one of those things that, we kind of need their cooperation to get that 100-foot space along the edge so that, everything's not just washing off the fields into the creek, but that's the way it is right now. So, yeah, it's been a concern of mine for a number of years.
It's not just Sandy Creek, it's all the creeks.
It's all the creeks. It's all the creeks, Buttonwood, Salmon,
West Creek.
West Creek,
Yeah, I live on West
Antique
Creek.
yeah,
It's pretty bad, it's all mud flats.
you can't even get down West Creek.
And when we first
Anymore.
moved there, like 37 years ago, you used to get between a 19 and 21 foot boat down there.
Yeah.
It's just from back in the day.
Yeah,
But now, they do stay 100 feet, minimum 100 feet away from the creek. Not a
Yeah.
deal.
Where's that? I mean,
My property.
oh,
Yeah,
because a lot of places don't.
yeah, they don't, but these farmers are very good. Conscientious.
so, if anybody has taken a look up along the parkway, you'll see miles and miles and miles of black pipe for the sewer system. If you want to see how this pipe is put together, there's a little shack up on where 260 comes in to the parkway, and just off of that, they got miles of pipe that they're fusing together. They got a little machine in there, and they put one piece of plastic tubing up there, and another one comes in, and they even them up, and then they got a little heat machine that fuses both of the pipes together, and then they drag it down the 50 feet or so. They drag in another length of pipe, and it's quite interesting. And they're very, very helpful, very, very courteous. One of them brought their loader over and pulled me out of the ditch. So they're good folks. So is there any more discussions? Okay, hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have a fine